Good evening and welcome everybody to our Monday, May 15th. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please rise for the invocation and pledge led by Mr. Weaver.
Thank you. Let us strive each day to do that which brings happiness and joy to others and avoid causing others hurt and pain. Let us use our minds and our reason to further that mutuality and reciprocity inherent in human relationships. And let us always respect the dignity and worth of each other. Above all, let us love one another and lift up our neighbors and bring each other peace. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jeremy, please call a roll.
Angelou.
Here.
Bowers.
Here.
McGregor.
Here.
Padova.
Here.
Renner.
Here?
Schnetzer. Here. Weaver.
Here.
All right, thank you. Item B, additions or corrections to our agenda. Do we have anything? All right, thank you. Item C, presentations. We do have two. Ms. Moran, you're up.
Good evening. My name is Monica Moran. I'm with the Franklin County Auditor's Office. We're here to talk about the 2023 reappraisal. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I promise I'll be brief. We have sent over the slides in advance, and I did have a handout made up for you as council members, as well as a property guide that we are leaving behind at different libraries, civic associations, different groups, just so that you have it. So our goal here tonight is just to give you some information about the 2023 reappraisals, so that if you are asked, if your constituents ask you about what's going on, you are informed and you know where to direct them. So first of all, what are we doing this year? Every 6 years, county auditors are required by law to do a full reappraisal. Every 3 years in between, we do a triennial update. So in 2020, we did an update. This year, we are reappraising every property, every parcel within Franklin County. And not much of a surprise here, there's going to be a large value increase, right? So there's a variety of reasons why that will happen, but that will be communicated with every property owner across Franklin County. And so again, as I mentioned, we are meeting with different city councils, civic associations, et cetera. So what do we do during this process and what does it mean? We are looking at recent home sales in different neighborhoods. This is all publicly available data. We look at other neighborhood data and how we delineate neighborhoods. So how do we make sure that we are looking at very like neighborhoods? When we say neighborhoods, you may think of the boundaries of where you live in particular. I live in Gahanna in Ward 4. I live in Harrison Pond. Harrison Pond itself would not be an appraisal neighborhood. We have different appraisal neighborhoods, but we have increased those by several hundred because the more we can hyper-localize the data, the more accurate we can make it, which is very important. And we look at the exterior of all of the properties. We do this in conjunction with a firm that we work with through the county auditor's office. So because this is a large undertaking and it takes us a couple of years to prepare, we have set up a completely separate website through the Franklin County Auditor Office website called Know Your Home Value. So the website is live, franklincountyauditor.com/knowyourhomevalue, where we do have a video that explains very briefly the reappraisal process, how it works, what it means, and what are some other resources that we have available for you. So more importantly, the timeline for you to know this if you're asked any questions, what's going to happen and when. So between July and August, and a lot of this is contingent upon when we submit our information to Department of Taxation and when they approve it, as soon as we have values back to us, they will be mailed to every property owner in Franklin County. They will also be updated on our website for every property owner. Everyone who has a property e-alert will receive a notification of a value change. So this mailer will be coming out the latest about the third week in August, the earliest the first week in August. We won't have a clear timeline on that yet, but between July and August, we'll know the exact numbers for every property, and we will make those publicly available, and we will send those to every property owner. I imagine there's going to be a bit of a sticker shock, so we're letting people know about that now in advance. What happens after that? So if you see your property value once it's received and you believe that that is accurate, there's nothing else you need to do and there's no other action that's needed. If you think that there is something inaccurate about your property value, you have a couple of options. You can schedule an informal review. Now, in 2020, we were midst of the pandemic. We had to pivot to doing most of those virtually. It actually went well, and people enjoyed the opportunity to do those via Zoom. So we are going to do a combination of different informal reviews that will involve in-person locations, that will involve virtual options, or the ability just to submit documents if you believe your value is inaccurate. After that, come October, we will finalize values, and in December, the final value will be mailed to all property owners who did participate in the informal review. I'm going to pause there and just see if there were any questions about that in terms of a timeline. No? Great. Okay. So the first question we get is, does this mean my property taxes will go up? Not necessarily. People will see a property value increase. Most Franklin County property owners will see a value increase. And again, why is that a perfect storm of events? We have a continuing hot demand for property, population growth, lack of affordable housing, et cetera. Those are all factors that are contributing to what we're anticipating to be about a 35% increase in property values. It's about 35% on average is the number that we are projecting. Some may see as low as 25, some may see as high as 45, but our average number that we're saying is 35%. And I'll remind you that in our 2020 triennial update, we saw an average 20% increase. So for homeowners, for property owners over time, that is a significant property value increase. Now, with property valuations, is Franklin County alone in that? Absolutely not. So we shared here what are some of the numbers in other counties across Ohio. And we have some links on our website to national averages as well. So we are certainly not an outlier. There are other counties seeing higher increases, but the lowest we're finding here is 20. And I should tell you there's a sampling here of counties because not every county does a reappraisal in the same year. While every county must do it every 6 years, it's not on the same cycle. But just for comparison, so that you understand Franklin County isn't an outlier, but we do have a hot market, there are some numbers for you to have. And so the next question we generally get is, will the reappraisal affect my taxes? And the answer is likely. There is not a one-to-one ratio on property value increase and taxes. Your property values may go up, but your taxes will not go up proportional to that. And that is very important to understand because I believe that is a question that people will have, and we want to guide them through that. So we are in the process of developing a tax projection tool on our website, which will let people see if, for example, my value goes up by X percent, my taxes will likely go up by Y number. And that is due to a variety of different factors, what's on the ballot, what's in your taxing district, how much go to schools, et cetera. I can tell you that in 2020, when we saw an average 20% increase in property values, we saw an average 7.8% increase in taxes. So there's not a one-to-one correlation. I don't want to demean the 7.8%, that's certainly something. But for people to understand, when we say a 35% increase in value does not mean a 35% increase in taxes. It will mean that the voters have the ultimate decision depending on what's on the ballot, what may or may not be there, and they have that choice and on many instances to determine what that final taxing district can look like. So here are just a couple examples. If your value goes up at the same rate as averages in your taxing district, you will have a minimal increase in taxes. And this chart, I think, is helpful just to show you that if your value goes up the same as everyone else, which is the most often thing, the tax increase is minimal. It's a complicated message to share, for sure, but one that we want to make sure you all as elected leaders understand. So if asked, how do we make sure that these valuations are accurate? We're proud of the accuracy of our information. We have received national recognition from other auditors' offices. We often present on it. But still, we don't go inside every property, right? We don't go inside everyone's home or business. So the first thing people can do is go to the Franklin County Auditor's website and look at the information we already have available. We have bedroom counts, we have bathroom counts, we have that available. If that is incorrect, we have a button you can click right there and we can get that updated now and we can update that information. So if something is way off, if you think that, if you notice that those factual differences, do that now. Encourage people to do so now. We want the most accurate data as possible. And again, if you feel once you receive that value letter that you get in the mail in August, if you feel that value is inaccurate, then schedule one of the informal reviews. They take about 20 minutes. Again, they can be done virtually. They're scheduled. You can come in person. You can just submit documents. Our website walks you through it. We will be happy to talk people through it over the phone. But that 20-minute conversation has a good likelihood of resulting in a change in your valuation to make sure it is as accurate as possible. So where can you find additional information? Again, at franklincountyauditor.com/knowyourhomevalue. We have a QR code there on our documents that I brought here. We have a reappraisal property guide that just explains a little bit more and simpler that timeline, as well as a one-page flyer. We want to leave those behind and ask if you're willing to leave these here at City Hall if people come in with questions, just to have this available to be able to share. And we also have on our Know Your Home Value website, and it's a little hard to read from, I'm sure, to read the fine print, but we have taken every possible question that we can come up with from all the meetings we've done, which I think we're up to 206 now across Franklin County, taken all the questions we get and put answers there available. So when I don't know the answer, if you don't know the answer, directing people to that website is really helpful because it's quite likely we can get an answer for them right there, or if not, they'll hit the contact us button and we will get back to them within 48 hours. So, last thing here. We do want to make sure people have the resources available to cope with not just if there's a value increase and that increase in taxes, which again, as I mentioned, are not one-to-one, but we do have a number of programs that we help administer or directly oversee, such as the Property Tax Assistance Program. The Treasurer has the STAR program. We want to make sure people are receiving all of the different benefits they can as an owner-occupied or homestead if they qualify. So we are linking all of those on a resource page so that we can make sure that all Franklin County residents who are eligible can apply for and receive all of the help that they can get in paying for those property taxes should they need it. So we'll have those there as well, and those are also on our handouts. And that is what I have in our overall summary about the Know Your Home Value campaign and our 2023 reappraisal. If you have questions about those that I can answer, I'm happy to. If not, I'm happy to answer any of those separately by email, by phone, whatever is most convenient for you. Is there anything I can answer for you?
Ms. Moran, I do have a question, and maybe you said this, and I apologize, but in the review process, if somebody makes an appointment and meets with somebody at the auditor's office to review the tax information, is it responsive like there's a resolution there, or how long does it take for a resolution to come back?
So we don't provide an answer directly there. We review all of those in October, and then the final values are mailed out in December. So August, you're going to get a letter saying this is your current value, your new tentative value. In September, you would do that informal review. In October, we take all of the data, review it, and then we do our final value mailing in December. I should also add that in December, if we send you, if for some reason you bring to us in an informal review information and believe the value should be higher or lower, because we have people who look at both, and still don't agree, then you can go to our border revision process, which is that next window through March 31st. So there's many steps to being able to challenge that value and make sure it's as accurate as possible.
Thank you. You preempted my second question, so thank you very much. Any other questions? Mr. Snetzer?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Ms. Moran. You had mentioned the 2020, I think that's the triennial or the 3-year process, and it seems like 2020 was a lifetime ago. What's the technical difference between that 3-year reappraisal and the one that's upcoming, the 6-year process?
In the triennial update, we use sales data exclusively. We don't do individual physical inspections of each property.
Okay.
So with the full mass reappraisal, we contract with a large appraisal company in addition to the appraisers we have on staff to go and visually inspect each property. In the update, we look at comparative sales data to come up with those numbers over the previous 3 years.
Okay. So one's in person, the other one's presumably data-driven?
I'll say they're all data-driven. One is more in-depth, physically looking at each property.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Any other questions? Ms. McGregor?
Can you send us a copy of the slides, of the presentation?
I think we have.
Sure. Your clerk already has them, but
Okay.
I can,
Okay.
but I'm happy to,
No,
however is
that's
the easiest way
fine,
to do it.
thank
So there are copies of a handout, this document, and all the slides electronically here for you today as well.
That'd be great, thanks.
Yeah. And again, as we go forward in the future, if there's other questions that, members of the community bring to you, there's ways that we can help, or there's other groups you think we can speak to. We've gone to homeowner associations, different civic groups. Happy to do that. I promise it's a quick and painless presentation.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank
Thank you all so
again.
much for your time.
All right, thank you. Next up,
Thank you.
Mr. Lozinski, it's a pleasure to see you again. You're up.
Good to see you, President Hunter, council members, Mayor Jasmine. It's really a lot of fun to come to this meeting tonight to talk about the newest branch in the Columbus Metropolitan Library System. I'm not doing a presentation for you tonight. You should have a folder that looks like this, and there'll just be a couple of sheets of paper that I draw your attention to during my brief presentation. This is part of kind of a check-in that we are doing with all of the 10 school districts that we serve within Franklin County, as well as the suburban communities beyond Columbus. Not only to remind people about the services that we offer and beyond the traditional services that we offer, but also to check in as part of our 150th anniversary for the Columbus Metropolitan Library, known as our sesquicentennial. I know you've all been working on spelling sesquicentennial over the last couple of months, since we used March 4th, the actual anniversary date, to open the new Gahanna branch. First of all, I want to thank all of you for attending the preview reception and the opening itself. We had 4,000 people on day one, and that is as close to a community wedding celebration as you can get. There was a lot of joy in the crowd, and thank you for your support. That was great fun for us. I can tell you, since March 4th, we've welcomed 70,000 customers to the new branch. We've issued 1,200 new library cards and have held more than 2,100 registered school help and reading buddies sessions with the community, which are huge numbers. Generally, we're looking at story times that are for 20 and 30 children, and we're seeing 60 and 70 that show up. So it's a great success story for us so far, which draws attention to, if you open your folder on the left-hand side, you'll see a map, and I want to explain that to you. First of all, to also disclose, this isn't a current map because we don't have the newest data for the new branch that has opened, and it's not data from our temporary location as well, which was lower. But this is a map of Franklin County, and you see some large blue dots throughout. Those are the 23 locations of the Columbus Metropolitan Library. The red dots that you see are the home locations of library card registrants who have visited your library over a 6-month period of time just to use a computer. We have a similar map for circulation data and the rest. And this pattern repeats itself in all of our locations, all 23. There's a clustering of the people who live closest to that branch, the community branch, if you will. But people are drawn from all over the community, and we see customers that visit 5 to 6 branches on a regular basis. I point that out to you not only to let you know that we really do have library lovers in this community, but there's some horsepower in those numbers. It's important that your business community understands that, because people who are coming to the library are looking for a place to eat, or maybe to stop for a coffee shop, or do other things, or to learn about your community. We think that's an important part of what we offer in the community. So the first public library for Columbus Metro was opened in the City Hall, March 4th, 1873. Just for a moment, think that that was 8 years after the Civil War, to give you a sense of how long the library has been around. And in 1901, my predecessor actually went to New York with plans and knocked on Andrew Carnegie's door. And at the end of that visit, had a commitment of $200,000 to build the main library, which has been operating as a library since 1907 when it opened. Community demand started for branches in the 1930s, and 4 branches were opened, and the Gahanna branch opened on April 7th, 1969, the first one. That was on North Hamilton Road, and then the current branch, of course, replaced the branch that had been there, and we opened on the 4th of March. So with 150 years, it's a year-long series of celebrations and connections with the community. We think it's the strength that brings all of our communities together. We're hosting the first ever book festival on July 15th and 16th. It's going to be held at the main library, front plaza, back plaza. It's the first time the city of Columbus is allowing us to use anyone to use Topiary Park for a festival. Think of it as the art festival, but for books. And we have 135 national authors that are committed to come in. We purposely did not brand it after the library proper because we wanted all of the Central Ohio libraries, we have all of the bookstores in place. Maybe this sounds a little librarian-ish, but we're trying to celebrate the literary ecosystem, which is powerful. When you think about businesses like OCLC and Chemical Abstracts, information science is strong in our community. We also have a sesquicentennial author series, an enhanced 8-week summer reading challenge, and we also have library passports. And this goes back to the map. The idea there is like getting a passport stamp. Residents are encouraged to visit 23 libraries throughout Franklin County and to take in library service in all of those locations. In closing, I want to direct you to the right-hand side of your folder, and we have a 5-page stapled packet for you. We feel that beyond the traditional service of someone coming in to check out our book, we really try to focus on what we call the out-of-school time for young minds. It's particularly important coming off of the pandemic. If you've been paying attention to media stories, kids have lost a lot in the last 2.5 years, and we try to be major players in this space. We define out-of-school time as preschool, after school, weekends, and summer. And that's where you see most of our efforts, which are summarized on pages 1 and 2. You also see what we offer to teachers and book collections that we deliver to the schools. Pages 3 and 4 are a summary of what we do really in the adult space beyond traditional services. So you see job and career, digital equity, social service help. Sometimes we're asked, why is the library expanding its role? I can tell you, we don't ask people to come in for social service referral. They come in because we believe the library is that trusted community resource where people feel safe with a first stop inquiry. So we take that seriously. We have social service interns from Ohio State who actually help with that referral process, which helps them as well gain a line on their resume and to try to provide direction for our residents. The last page is one that I particularly want to share, not only for the city, but also for individual council members. And I'm not sure about all of your day jobs, but it's a program we have on our website called LinkedIn Learning. And as the name would imply, it's the producers of this program come from the LinkedIn social media site for businesses. It's 17,000 high-quality training videos. You're almost going to be challenged to stump the service to see what they don't have. It's pretty extensive. So you can get basic certification in Microsoft Office tools. You want to learn how to improve your understanding of financial documents. My wife happens to be a photography teacher, and for high school students, film photography. She's used it as a tool to help her with your curriculum. It's start and stop. It's 24/7. There's no fee for it. I think there's a lot of resources that could help the city staff, could help others, and the contract we have with LinkedIn Learning forbids us from doing cross-marketing, so we have to kind of do it through word of mouth. We'd like to get it on the Chamber of Commerce site to let businesses use it, but of course they're trying to sell it to businesses as well, and that's understandable. But it's a terrific tool. I would encourage you to take a look at it. Two things in closing. One, I would say that we're excited about the possibility of the connection to Shoal Park. I know that the letter, and I don't remember the agency, but our letter of support for that effort, I think it's so consistent with what we've tried to do to leverage the footprint of the library beyond our basic building footprint. If you look at Main Library and you see the connection we've made to Topiary Park, the connection to Rose Run Park at the New Albany branch, even the connection to the bicycle trail with Shepherd Park, it is really about strengthening the civic amenity and enhancement for our community. We take that very seriously, and we think just the basic connection can start something that is quite catalytic, and we just want to let you know we want to be very willing partners with you in that effort. It was interesting that you had someone from the auditor's office here tonight, because we were actually meeting with them today. Likelihood is that the library may be on the ballot this November. The last time was 2010, so it's been 13 years, which makes us realize that some of the voters were in story time, 5 years old last time. So we know we have some work ahead of us to share that information. I think our trustees will decide, could decide in May or in June. They're kind of paying attention to the state budget process, and some of our revenue comes from the state as well. So that concludes my remarks, and see if you have any questions for me this evening.
Ms. Padova.
I just want to thank you for being here this evening and all the work that the library does. I've been taking my daughter to story time, and I can attest that there have been a lot of children, and the staff does such an excellent job, and at some points the patience of them, I am amazed when there's little ones around their feet and they're going on with their puppets and their stories and the letters, and it is really great to see, and I can tell with all the story times how excited all the parents are to have such a great place to take their kids and get that socialization and some of those skills to get ready for kindergarten. So thank you for everything you guys do.
Well, I appreciate that, and we've done some new things in the children's department that are really based on experiences in others, so I think we've taken it to another level in Gahanna, and it's part of the always improving method philosophy. I should mention that branch manager Nate Oliver is on vacation this week, and they said, well, do you want to reschedule? And I said, Nate, I'll make sure I mention, but Nate does a nice job of making sure that the staff embraces the customer service philosophy. And of course, your residents, Don and Liesl Dorman, who supported the library, and the architect, Michael Sariano. There's really some great connection with the community, and we value that.
Ms. Bowers.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Padova, for bringing up the staff, and Mr. Lisinski, too. The staff here is incredible, and we're really grateful for all that they provide to the residents. Thank you again also for being here tonight. What are some ways that we can be good partners to the library?
I would say just continuing to extol the virtues and the philosophy that you've had so far. I know I told the mayor that even her predecessor, when we came in to talk about a library, I just have to tell you, it was one of the best preparation meetings that we've ever had with any of our suburban communities. So I think we knew from the city's initial response to us that they took the library seriously, that they valued it in the community, wanted to be good partners, helped us assess various properties that we had. I think seeing everyone at the dedication, talking about the Shoal Park connection and what we can do, I think those are all the things that make for a good partnership. Certainly you're very influential with your residents, so anything that you can do, we do extensive work in this area, but anything that you can do to let people know of the services, because generally once we pay for them, there's not an additional fee to us or a charge to the community members. So any way you can help with that, I think is valuable to us as well.
Sure. Great, thank you.
Okay. Mr.
Thank you so much
Liskey.
for your time.
Thank you so much. Okay, item D, hearing of visitors. Mr. Clerk, do we have any speaker passes?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Seeing none. Item E, consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as published?
So moved, Mr. President.
Have a first by Mr. Snetzer. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second by Ms. Angelou. Any discussion? Jeremy, please call the roll.
Schnetzer,
Yes.
Angelou,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
McGregor,
Yes.
Padova,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Item F, ordinances for introduction and first reading. There are 17 on this list.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Weaver.
thank you. I'd like to make a motion pursuant to Rule 8.2 of the council rules that we accept the titles as presented for the items under item F and suspend with the individual readings.
Mr. Weaver has made a motion to suspend 8.2 for reading and accept it as printed. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Snetzer. Any discussion? Jeremy, please call the roll. Sounds like a good deal to me.
Weaver,
Yes.
Schnetzer,
Yes.
McGregor,
Yes.
Padova,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Angelou,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Mr. Weaver, thank you very much for that. Item G, ordinances for introduction, waiver, and emergency adoption. Ordinance 44-2023, an ordinance to amend Ordinance 78, 2022, establishing the salaries for personnel of the city of Gahanna for the period January 1, 2023 through December 31st, 2023, waiving second reading and declaring an emergency. Do I have a motion to adopt said ordinance?
So moved.
First by Mr. Snetzer. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Weaver. Discussion. We do have a question. Ms. Bowers, you want to start?
Sure, yeah. I would like to thank Director Vollmer for her time and her reach out to offer to discuss this a little bit further. And so I've asked her to address some of the questions that I had tonight because I thought that they may be fruitful discussion for the balance.
Good evening. While Corey's pulling up. Great. Thanks, Corey. So I briefly wanted to go over some of the budget impacts, a further discussion on those. So I thought it was important to break those positions down by fund. So this presentation focuses on those requested new positions. So those were the supervisor for customer service, the manager of public service, manager for planning, and the management analyst for police records. So as you can see via this slide, the two positions in public service, supervisor customer service is out of the proprietary funds for 50% water, 50% sewer. The manager for public service operations is split 4 ways. Can you hit hide there? Between the general fund, stormwater, water, and sewer. The manager for planning and the management analyst for police records are funded 100% out of the general fund. So the next slide gives you a summary by fund for the total amounts there, and then the grand total for all, across all funds. The next slide talks about the 2023 impact to fund balance. I apologize for Director Burry not being able to join us this evening. Her son was starting in the baseball playoff game this evening. So Corey and I are here to discuss this briefly. So the actual 2023 beginning unencumbered fund balance is what's reflected on the screen of roughly $20 million. The next line is planned revenue. A note on this number was updated based on income tax collections through December 31st of 2022. So when you got the budget book for 2023 last fall, that had the projected revenue estimates. So it has been updated. So that is the planned revenue as of December 31st of 2022. The next line is the original operating expenditures that appeared in the budget book. And again, this is general fund expenditures of the $30.3 million. So the next line, with the additions of the positions that I discussed only from the general fund, so the manager of planning, the management analyst for police records, and then the 25% of the manager of public service, that is how much those are being added to the general fund. So the change to fund balance is roughly $200,000, or it would be expected to use roughly 1% of the unencumbered fund balance this year. And then the next line has the expected end balance for 2023. I will note that in the 2023 budget request, the administration requested, and it was approved by council, to use roughly 2% or $400,000 in the unencumbered fund balance. This is down to 1% or the roughly $200,000. So this takes into account the projected salary and benefit savings that Director Burry went over last week. If you might remember, she estimated a savings of roughly $500,000 with salary and benefit savings or changes to staffing requests that I went over last week. In addition, we don't actually expect to use that 1% or $200,000 because, as she said, we already anticipate adding back $500,000. So that would mean we would roughly add back $300,000 to the unreserved fund balance. In addition to that, based on prior years, there is always year-to-year savings and operations from materials and supplies and projects that are delayed or don't cost as much as we projected. In addition, there will be salary and benefit savings due to delayed in hiring from employee start dates, the actual pay rates, because we budget everybody at a certain step, and then benefit selections once those are finalized as well. We budget for everyone, every new addition to employee or replacement of a vacancy for family benefits. And so when there's no benefits taken or a lesser benefit taken, then those are savings as well. I'm happy to answer any other questions. I do have the org charts on this slide deck as well, if you'd like to see those again, or I know I have additional information about what those new positions will do as well.
Maybe just before you move on to that, because I think that would be important too. So the slide that you have displayed right now, that's even, I would say, lower than what you're actually projecting because of those other savings not being factored in. Is that what I understand?
Correct. So we don't anticipate we'll use any unencumbered fund balance this year because of the additions that are already projected to be added back in.
And so for next year, at most, we'd be looking at a salary add to the general fund of $283,000 roughly.
I believe the total with all of the changes would be about a 1% increase next year to the general fund only, because that would include some of those reclassifications that I discussed at the last meeting as well. But that also hinges on, like, these vacancies are planned at step 5. In the likelihood, if we hire at step 5 with a new compensation program, is some will, some won't. So, per Director Burry, This slide only includes those new positions and not some of the reclassifications, because in order to run that, she has to run the full budget model back through with all the changes, and that was not something she was able to do today.
Okay.
Because it would also depend on the revenue projections and then the other operating expenditures as well for next year, which will begin in July and August to put that information together.
Would either of you have any, I know that we are not through Q2 yet, but would either of you have any updates as to income projections for revenue? It looks to me like, based on actual numbers as of December 31, our revenue was higher than projected. And so is that trend continuing forward as well? If either of you are able to speak to that, I know.
Is it on the website? The Q1 summary that Joanne provided was on the website, so we'd have to pull it up to look, but she'll be doing her mid-year budget review as well in July. I think it's slated to be presented. Because that's when she would also rerun all the staffing again from the changes, the additions, when people resigned, were hired. So it'll be a more comprehensive look at when she runs the mid-year in June for a July presentation.
I think maybe it would make sense for you to go ahead and then explain the positions a little bit further, and then open if there's further questions after that or discussion. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm going to start with the management analyst just because it's at the top of my list. So that is 100% funded out of the general fund, and that's for the Division of Police. And Chief Spence and Director Becker are here as well, so if you have anything else, feel free to join. But part of the changes, request for this position is there were changes to the Ohio Revised Code regarding video and audio redactions, as well as new and follow-up redactions pursuant to Marcy's Law. In addition, just the processing of records, the overall records management, and the centralization of responsive records. So this position would work hand in hand with your team over here to produce those police records. As you might imagine, there's a lot of video and audio redactions required, and currently we have multiple civilians and some sworn staffing assisting with those records redactions and management, and so this would pull it all under one position to allow those other employees to focus on their main tasks. I'll stop in between each one, see if you have any questions. Or if, okay. Let's see, for the manager of planning, this is also funded 100% out of the general fund. This position will assist with managing the day-to-day activities of the department and the different divisions within there, providing direct support for employees, as well as coordinating the customer service-facing employees in the Department of Planning and Code Enforcement. Right now, we have all employees in the Department of Planning reporting up to Director Blackford, and those are distinct different divisions of planning. In addition, this would provide succession planning as well for the Department of Planning. They would also manage the rental registration program and provide action on all decision points that need made with that program. We did do a job audit for an employee down in planning, and it was on the job audit report that those decision points do need to be made by a supervisory employee. So currently, that only person is Ken Foltz or Mr. Blackford, so this would add a layer to assist those employees as well. The customer service supervisor is funded 50% out of the water, 50% out of sewer. This position would help with enhanced oversight and consistency of resident interactions to improve our customer service, the reimplementation of the meter replacement program, direct support of the water and sewer rate calculations and projections, supervisory level support and training for our utility billing specialists. In addition, as we look to move to 825 825 Tech Center Drive with an opening at the end of 2024 or beginning of 2025. We are looking to move to a customer service model, which Director Schultz will get into further at his next facility update. And so this would allow us to hire and onboard this supervisor to ensure that we are ready to go when that building opens and not still in the process of transitioning to that model. For the manager of public service, there was a part-time employee in this role, and he has since vacated. He was retired and he came back to help us out, and now he's retired again. So this is a move from taking that position from part-time to full-time to assist with align the operations of fleet, streets, and utilities, oversee the pavement repairs from snow and ice operations, assist with emergency operations of the city, assist with the CIP program from the Department of Public Service, realigning fleet purchases to ensure timely delivery of police cruisers and other fleet, assist with the sustainability and food waste programs, succession planning as well, traffic signal management, the lead for utility management, which is the water, sanitary, and sewer, and all EPA regulations. The EPA has added an additional requirement, so the city needs to have a wastewater collections Class 2 operator license moving forward, so they'll be responsible for that, as well as the operator of record for our water distribution Class 2. And then also be responsible for our consumer confidence report and water quality, manage public service contracts, and then improve the customer service for the public service operations.
Could you speak a little bit, Director Vollmer, to, and I think you clarified this, at least with the management analyst for public records, given some of the legal changes, the need to consolidate and focus that position. Could you speak a little bit to the other positions about why the mid-year request versus it coming on for budget later?
Sure. So when we have vacancies, we look to realign internal staff to see where staff's being best utilized, as well as to determine if positions need moved around. So for the manager of planning, there was a vacancy created when the administrative coordinator was reclassified. So when we took a look at that position, it was identified to realign that into a manager for the reasons that I stated before. Same with the manager of public service and the part-time employee who was in that role has since left, and so that's why that's a move to the full-time employee. And then in addition, during the budget discussions last fall, we did indicate that at that time Mr. Crawford had gave his resignation to move on, and so we did make note that it was anticipated we'd be bringing a mid-year staffing request for the Department of Public Service after a new director was onboarded and the separation from engineering could be further looked at. And then in the supervisor for customer service is twofold. There was a vacancy created. One of the utility billing specialists received a promotion to the Department of Finance, to a finance analyst. And so when that position was vacant, we looked at it to see, what is needed in utility billing, and then further with the transition to 825 Tech Center, which will be here before we know it, we do see the need to start to get an employee on staff now. If we did wait for the regular budget cycle, we have a 60 to 90-day recruitment from we post the vacancy, so 60 to 90 days after that is when we expect that employee to start. And then after that, we expect anywhere from a 3 to 6 month onboarding and training process. So it's roughly could be a year before we have the employee onboarded and training and realizing the efficiencies that they create. And since we're about year and a half-ish out from that new facility, it's important for us to get that employee on now so we're ready when the doors open and not scrambling in the background.
I don't have any other questions. I have thoughts to share, but no other questions.
Okay, any other questions? We're still in discussion on this ordinance. Any comments?
I'll share my, I guess, just thoughts, and I thank you, Director Vollmer, and Assistant Director Weibensinger for speaking tonight. I do appreciate the work that you put into helping us break this down by fund. I don't show in the minutes or on the website that we've received a Q1 report yet. So I appreciate the additional discussion tonight. I think where I take pause with this is when we were going through the budget discussions last year, there was some projected spend down of that unreserved fund balance, even with the then existing staffing positions that were being created. And so my concern is that here we are in May, we haven't really had a full year to sort of see how staffing is working yet, and we're creating additional spending. So I do know that we have some new jobs coming online. I appreciate that there is some optimism with revenue. But I do have, I have some concerns, I guess, just with from a spend down on the fund balance perspective and the creation of new positions. I will just offer that caution, and I do appreciate the time for the discussion tonight, so thank you.
Mr. Schnitzer?
I just add a follow-up to that, Mr. President. Ms. Bowers, would it be helpful with a full complement of staff, particularly including Joanne, to request perhaps a snapshot, just to get a little bit more comfortable with this, and to the extent that that wouldn't ruffle too many feathers operationally, if we could bring it back?
So table the ordinance?
I mean, I just would make a motion to come back next week or whatever with the discussion.
I would just need clarification on what we're looking to come back. Director Burry is
Sure.
actively trying to finish our ACFR by the May 31st deadline.
So what I heard, based on the discussion and stuff back and forth, was council is currently looking at the latest expenditure data that we have, or I should say the planned revenue was delivered to us, I believe, in February, as of December 31, 22. So we're sitting here mid-May looking at data that's roughly 5.5 months old, right? To the extent that there's anything more recent than that, even, I understand it's not going to be audited, but if there's anything at end of March, end of April, and I don't think the ask is for a full-blown Q1 report next week, but just some snapshot that says, okay, this is what planned revenue, this is what we thought operating expenditures were going to be in February. Can we get something updated before we sign up for authorizing a roughly $300,000 spend over whatever 12-month horizon, whenever the clock starts on that, right? I get it, it's going to take time to get the people on board, and so it may not be 300 grand, today or this year, but eventually it is. So I think just to get as close to a 7-up vote as we possibly can, I think it just simply makes sense to get everybody as comfortable as possible, if that's not too heavy of a lift.
I'll work with Director Burry to pull the revenue. I thought we had already posted it on the website, so I'll have to follow up with her. I know we closed out Q1. I know she's been working with the ACFR, and we have a new finance manager, Rachel Otavi. So I will see where we are with the presentation of that Q1 report.
That would help, thank you, yeah.
So we had a discussion in Q1, but I believe those were year-end numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was February 28th.
Yes, sir.
Finance meeting.
Sounds about right.
So we're still in discussion on this item.
So
Are you going to
with
make a
that-
motion?
With that, a motion to bring this back to committee 1 week from now.
There is a motion on the table to bring ordinance 44, 2023 back to committee. That means, so don't we have to table this to date certain?
I think it would interpret the motion as a motion to table until
June 5th.
June 5th.
And do we need any formalized instruction in that to bring it back, or is it just sort of implied?
No, Jeremy can actually, yeah. But I still want to make sure that we have the phrasing of this motion correct and clear.
So it'd be a motion to table the current ordinance, and that's ordinance 44-2023.
Hold on, mine's freezing up.
Or- It says here that it was a waiving second reading, so I don't know what you want to do on that, because that would make that sound a little different, because we were going to need to waive it second reading, so it had to be something very important to have that happen. And so, and declaring an emergency as well. So what does that do? I would assume you would answer this question, to, if this is held off for 2 weeks.
Yeah, so it's 3 weeks, because
3 weeks, true.
Memorial Day and
Yeah.
the fifth Monday. So it delays hiring by 3 weeks. Delays hiring, onboarding, training, brings somebody on mid-budget cycle season. It just becomes a little more difficult to train when we're all, because a lot of these positions will work directly with directors, so they're doing that. By waiting till June 5th, that's what it would do, is delay hiring, delay posting, because we can't obviously post it till the positions are added to the salary ordinance.
Are there any that are in potential right now?
None of those
Okay, none
are
of those
posted
yet
right now, no.
Posted, okay, thank you.
So, I'm happy to make the motion. If it gets shot down, it gets shot down. Jeremy, what essentially does this have to say? What's the verbiage
So if
that's
you're looking to
required?
table, a motion to table ordinance 44-2023.
Okay.
Further discussion at committee of the whole, May 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. Van Meter. I will make a motion to table ordinance 4-2023, and ask it to be brought back to committee. Do you need it postponed to date certain or anything like that? No? Okay.
So there's a first by Mr. Snetzer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Weaver. Any discussion on this motion to table? Miranda, can you explain to me again? I know you already said this, so I'm going to have two questions, one for you and one for my colleagues. But what is the impact, again, for delaying this by 3 weeks?
So you're looking at roughly a 3-week or 30-day delay in hiring. So the 30-day delay and a start date. There are other positions around the Central Ohio area that are very similar to these that are hired now, or not hired, posted as well now. So it goes to recruitment of qualified individuals that we want to work at this city, is what the delay potentially could mean. It also is a delay in onboarding.
Okay, are there any operational delays?
I'll let Director Schultz come up. Yes, I believe there's operational delays in the Department of Public Service.
Yeah, so I would, to start with the customer service area, I think that group right now is very much challenged with the promotion and the employee coming upstairs. One of the reasons for making the adjustment, as Director Vollmer stated, was the reassessment of a vacant position and how do we best service the customers that, not just in that department, but how should it be realigned for not just tomorrow, but for them points in the future. So holding the customer service supervisor position would impact that group somewhat tremendously. The cascade there, I would think, and the request that I would make as the senior director over that particular department is that the employee coming upstairs to the finance department make themselves and avail themselves to the utility billing department so that proper service is rendered to the residents in this time frame when we're looking to onboard this particular supervisor.
Could Could I ask about police? That this will be 30 days without police? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. That's all right.
Yes, our request is for a records technician in this overall request with the other positions. Right now, we operate with one records person for our agency. Similar sized, Westerville, they have 8. They have 6, a manager and a supervisor. Whitehall, 4 plus 2 part-time. Reynoldsburg, 4. So we operate with 1. And we're similarly positioned in terms of staff and calls for service. The particular acute situation with our department right now, twofold. One, Marcy's Law became effective April 6th. The entire impact of Marcy's Law as it relates to redaction of victim information and then kind of a follow-up to that, we're still trying to wrestle with. It's very intricate. I don't know that every solution has been presented. We've encountered every problem. But for example, we do have to, if we have a robbery victim, there's an automatic belief that a victim wants their information redacted from a report, that it cannot be made public. So let's say that robbery victim had a financial loss that involved their insurance company. They had damage to their property. They had stolen items as a victim of that robbery. They turned that to their insurance company. Then it requires us to do some follow-up to determine, can we release that victim information because they've already opted out or opted into having it redacted, but the report would not show them as a victim because that information is subsequently redacted, so the insurance company can't balance out that they have an impacted party. Those are just, that's one avenue of the challenge we're dealing with the law. The second piece is approved by council, a replacement of our records management system. Having somebody on board day one and a ground zero of that process as we build that new records management system is critical. We've got a pre-response conference with the vendors tomorrow. Due dates for the proposals are June 7th. So we're getting into June where we're going to get into the selection and scoring and then hopefully start working with that vendor, and having somebody at least integrated to our processes is kind of critical. So
Thank you.
did that answer?
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Schultz, do you have anything you want to add on the operational issue?
Just on the operational issue, on the operations manager side, that particular position is critical in the EPA reporting and the different compliance type reporting that needs filed by the end of the year. Having a operator of record is also critical to both water and sanitary sewer. We are experiencing a vacancy in that particular position right now, and that individual is, I believe his last day is this Friday. So not in that particular position, but the supervisor of the utility division of the city. So that is another critical area that we feel needs addressed more immediately than, as Director Vollmer stated, waiting the additional 3 weeks in order to have a more complete picture of the revenue, which we do feel is accurate, still accurate to the 1%. And as Director Vollmer stated, that we would not be seeing, based on salary savings and such, any dipping into the fund balance of the $20 million.
Okay.
Could I just ask just one quick follow-up?
Please.
Just one quick
Go
follow-up,
ahead.
Mr. Schultz. Were the EPA regulations, are they new or changed?
It's both. It's both, and the individual that was taking care of those his last day is Friday.
The requirement to have a wastewater collections class 2 is a new requirement. We have no one currently at the city with that licensure.
Okay.
So I'll be honest, I'm struggling. As somebody who manages another government agency, I know how very hard. I still have vacancies. We are facing unemployment, the lowest since, was it Wall Street Journal was reporting since 1969? So I'm trying to balance that with what is the information precisely that's being requested? Is it that we just want to see Q1 results and have confidence that revenues are definitely coming in higher? Is that what it is? Because I think Ms. Vollmer actually stated that revenues were coming in higher. Is that?
2022 came in higher than projected, yes.
Okay, then I misunderstood.
The quarter one revenue projections are still being finalized at this time.
Okay. So anyway, I guess that's what I'm trying to understand. Is that what we're trying to balance out with all this massive operational and struggles with trying to fill vacancies?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, if that's the question is directed to me, again, I'm just listening to the conversation here as well. I certainly am sympathetic to the staffing challenges that are out there. As you guys know, I deal with other public sector entities in my day job, and the city of Gahanna is not the only one facing this challenge. Again, the concerns that I heard were raised were, is there any more recent or contemporaneous financial snapshot that could be shared with council? I thought it was a reasonable request to ask. Again, I'm sympathetic to the hiring challenges and the staffing issues. We're being asked to, adopt a change that is intended to be more or less permanent. I don't know that the 3-week delay, given the holiday, is too, arduous of an ask.
Any other questions or comments on this motion? Okay, Jeremy, call the roll.
Schnetzer?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
Padova?
Yes.
Renner?
No.
Angelou?
No.
Bowers?
Yes.
McGregor?
No.
Okay, motion passes. It will be tabled to, what did we say, June 5th?
Yes, so it'll come back to committee
Also
May
come back to
22nd.
committee of the whole next Monday. Okay. Okay, thank you. Item H, correspondence and actions. Mr. Clerk?
Just one item tonight. The Ohio Division of Liquor Control did provide notice of a permit change to Signatures Tavern LLC. I did check with the Division of Police, and there are no objections to the permit application.
Okay, how about my colleagues on council? All right, thank you. Item I, representatives, Community Improvement Corporation. We do have a meeting tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in the committee rooms. And I don't have a report, but I promise you that I'll have a report the next time. Mr. Weaver, you want to add anything?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, MORPC, Ms. Angelou.
Thank you, President Renner. Thank you, Clerk Van Meter, for his work with my Granicus. That was in somehow, I think it had just kind of gone on into some air or something. Anyway, it's fixed. And also the items that I was planning to have potentially things that you could see and hear, but it was not going to work. So let me just have a few items from MORPC. Number one, there was an event before May 11th, and this is on the amount that's in has been put in for my regular type thing. But this was an event, a May 11th commission. It was a lunch recognizing President Dr. Hugh Sherman of Ohio University on his retirement. So that was a wonderful event before our commission. For number two, for years now, MORPC has found interns. And for commission members, this is a year with 53 interns have been found. And I believe that Gahanna will have 3. Is that correct, Mayor?
I believe.
Yeah,
That's
I think
correct,
it's
yes.
3. Yeah, it's 3. The next one is the Columbus Regional Federal Fund initiative. This is the one that I really wanted you to be able to hear and see. It's always great to have Kenny McDonald, Columbus Partnership President and CEO in the House. He was joined by Ann Aquilio, I believe, and that's the pronunciation, Direction of the Federal Funding Initiatives. The summary of this federal funds initiative ended up being, there were so many things that were going on talking about it, but the summary was, we cannot work together to improve our funding application and to win more of these resources for our region. The Grants Opportunities tool will be sent out on MORPC monthly member newsletter. It will be included in the Drive investment section. It's a terrific amount of work that is being done by this particular place, and with MORPC and with Columbus and with all of our partners. So it's really an important thing that once we get it, we want to be able to work hard on it. MORPC also received a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting for the 34th consecutive year. So that was another really wonderful thing for us to happen. I don't want you to forget that MORPC also has Money Monday. You can go there if we want to have, find some ways of getting grants. And then I would like to say also that Rapid 5 is starting with stage 2 of the Rapid 5. And Dr. Amy Acton is leaving from that and going to a different place. Other than that, you can read the other stuff right in the book. Thank you.
I was reading through, so pardon me. Okay, next, Convention and Visitors Bureau, Ms. Padova.
Thank you. Herb Day was a great event. We almost sold out of all of the plants. I volunteered at the plant parking lot, which allowed people to leave their plants while they checked out the other vendors that were there. And all of the feedback that I received when people were picking up their plants were very positive. And there were a lot of people from outside of Gahanna that were coming to pick up their plants as well. So thank you to all of the volunteers, as well as the Gahanna Parks and Rec Department for helping to make everything happen for Herb Day. Visit Gahanna was an exhibitor at the Ohio Tourism Day last Wednesday at the State House lawn for National Tourism Week, along with about 100 other CVBs. Hundreds of attendees gathered to learn about fun things to do in Ohio, and Visit Gahanna distributed visitor guides and other marketing materials and promoted CBJF as well as Urban Restaurant Week, which was last week. In addition to other great events that are taking place here in Gahanna this summer. At this event, the Ohio Department of Development also announced that they are going back to the slogan, Ohio, the heart of it all. Volunteers are still needed for CBJF, and there are individual volunteers are still needed, and there are also a few more spots for nonprofit groups and other groups for admission gates and beverage stations. This is a great way for organizations and groups to earn money, and the beverage stations will also receive tips. So please reach out to Visit Gahanna if you would like to volunteer.
Thank you. School Board, Ms. Bowers.
Yes, thank you. We are scheduled for our quarterly city school board school district meeting this coming Wednesday, the 18th of May. We are looking forward to that discussion. The latest from the school district is that they are working on a large set of capital improvement projects over the summer. This includes secured entries and office improvements at Goshen Lane, Royal Manor, Jefferson, Chapel Field, and Middle School West. These improvements are to increase safety and allow office staff a second opportunity to vet all visitors before they enter hallways of those schools. Also at Chapel Field and Royal Manor, there will be crews paving bus loops and parking lots, including the shared parking lot between Chapel Field and Middle School West. And exterior improvements will continue at High Point, Blacklick Elementary, including wheelchair accessible swings at Goshen Lane, High Point, and Chapel Field. There are continued permanent improvement funds will be used for a sound system and aid in the installation of permanent lighting at the Blacklick Athletic Complex. There will also be new buses added to the district's fleet. There will be $1.3 million the district was awarded in grant money used to boost surveillance, access control, and two-way radio networks within the buildings. So a lot of work will be underway over the summer, which starts very early in Gahanna. The last day of school is next week. So we wish our Gahanna Jefferson students a happy summer as they end their school year. Congratulations to Mrs. Maciosi, and I'm sure Mr. Weaver will have more comments during his report on what can only be described as a monumental capstone to her remarkable career at Gahanna Lincoln High School. The GLHS Theater Department sold out every show this past weekend, and I know many of those of us sitting on the dais were able to attend. So they put on Disney's Newsies, and it was truly an incredible performance. Finally, I wanted to congratulate GLHS Community Art Program for their Urban Arts Fair and ribbon cutting this past weekend. There was a large community gathering in support of the GLHS Community Art Program, and we are grateful to them for their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Official reports, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. I was going to thank Mr. Lazinski for his updates on the Gahanna branch. I would say not a week has gone by since we celebrated the opening of the library that I've not received a comment from a resident talking about how beautiful the library is and how much they enjoy visiting it. It's been about 70 days since that grand opening celebration, and I believe he said 70,000 visitors since that time, so it's an average of about 1,000 visitors a day. We just submitted a grant application last week for the Link to Literacy project that he mentioned, so hopefully we'll keep our fingers crossed that we could get some additional outside funding dollars to assist with that. And his presence also reminded me that my library books are due, so I need to swing by the drive-through lane on my way home. Also would like to extend my congratulations to Visit Gahanna and the Herb Center for a fabulous Herb Day celebration that also continued throughout the week. They had perfect weather for a large crowd to buy plants, shop with vendors. I applaud their efforts, certainly in continuing long-standing traditions, but also inventing new ways to celebrate our city's unique designation as the herb capital of Ohio. I'd like to thank our Parks and Rec team as well for their support of that event. They were there from early in the morning until late that afternoon, assisting with setup and then again with tear down and providing whatever other assistance was needed throughout the day, making sure the bathrooms were clean for all the visitors that were there. They do a great job. And also thanks to our team members. We had a city booth there that day, ready to engage with residents. We answered a lot of questions, shared information with them, got some really great volunteers for our Gahanna 175 committee, which will be starting soon to start planning for next year when Gahanna turns 175 years old. We celebrate that founding anniversary of our city. While we're talking about our employees, last week was Public Service Recognition Week. That week was established in 1985 to honor the people who serve constituents, both at federal, state, county, and local levels. And I'd like to take a moment to thank each and every member of the City of Gahanna team who show up for work every day, ready to serve our residents who work tirelessly to make Gahanna a wonderful community for everyone. Many are wearing multiple hats, and I can guarantee you that every single one of them have a very full plate right now, because we have a lot going on in this city and a lot of great projects being done to serve our residents. They carry public service in their hearts, and if you have not had a chance to see that, there's a video that was posted to our Facebook page last week with a lot of them sharing what public service means to them, and that really, I think, is indicative of the 200 people who work for this city every day and carry this city in their hearts, as I said. To that point, our 2023 street program is well underway. $4.8 million of issue $12 are being invested in this year's program to rebuild and repave roadways, which is significantly more than we were able to do just a few years ago. So our team has been hard at work, also overseeing that project and out in the streets, doing inspections, et cetera, together with also dealing with our sidewalk program. The fact that Mr. Comblanc is still awake right now, sitting through this with all that's been on his plate, is keep it up, Tom. You're doing a great job. Today, May 15th, is also National Peace Officers Memorial Day. This day was proclaimed by President Kennedy in 1962, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls is National Police Week. And this was designated as a way to pay special tribute and recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. 20 years after that day was proclaimed, in 1982, Gahanna officer Charles Duvernay was killed in the line of duty while directing traffic on Havens Corners Road. So on this day, we pay tribute to him. We keep his family close in our thoughts and our hearts, because once you're a member of the Gahanna family, you're always a member of the Gahanna family. And I'd like to recognize and honor the bravery of our men and women who make up our Gahanna Division of Police. And speaking of our division, this Saturday they're partnering with the FBI and the Starfish assignment in the 4th annual Bikes and Badges Bike Drive. We invite our community members to consider donating new and used bicycles. Bikes will be refurbished and then checked for safety to make sure that they can then be redistributed to children in need. Bikes can be dropped off here at the police headquarters on this Saturday, May 20th, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. Appreciate the recognition to Newsies this past weekend. My husband and I had the pleasure of attending that production, and incredible is the word I had written down. Absolutely incredible. Mrs. Macy O.C. and her farewell production hit it out of the park. David Cremines was phenomenal. The entire cast was phenomenal. And I know from my own personal performing experience, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that make that show go. And the musicians in the pit, everything was just top notch. And I continue to tell people that the quality of the musical theater program here in the city rivals Broadway quality productions. We are just so incredibly lucky to have such talent here in our city. And I just wish we could watch it over and over again, because I'm sure there's things I missed. Also on Saturday, I'll shout out to the Community Arts Program, who celebrated the ribbon cutting of the art murals. It was a well-attended event, and the students were very clearly thrilled to be posing in front of their murals and sharing their artwork with their families. And with that, I'd be remiss. My thanks to all of you for your discussions that we've had over the last 2 weeks regarding the proposed arts, well, no longer proposed, the actual art installation under the Granville Street Bridge. I know we've had many difficult conversations, but they were necessary conversations. The initial request of bringing that to council was to seek guidance so that we would be able to develop a policy that would identify what is and should not be within public spaces in order to protect the city from potential legal challenges as elected officials. I think all of you share my concern and agree that we should always seek to protect valuable taxpayer dollars and minimizing legal risk, something I know our city attorney talks about all the time. The record already reflects the substantive concerns I had about taking official action on public art displays on city property without having that first policy in place. I think we continually strive to be a leader in city governance, and I think best practice mandates that we invite the diverse voices in our city to be part of that process in creating a policy. To that point, the staff, the administration, we've already begun the process and work on researching firms that have demonstrated experience in working with municipalities to develop legally sound public art policies, as well as public arts master plans that are in line with best municipal practices, and that do so in a way that focuses on community engagement through that process, and that invites residents to help inform what that policy looks like. So we look forward to sharing more information with you as we continue to gather information to define what those next best steps will be. We look forward to working collaboratively with you and with our residents in a public process that respects the diversity that we all cherish about our community. And finally, belated Mother's Day wish to all of you. And I will share, I don't usually share things personal at this point, but I will share that I'm very blessed. My husband arranged for both of my daughters and sons-in-law, both live out of state, to surprise me and fly in this past weekend. And we surprised my mother in Pittsburgh, who I haven't been able to see for at least 6 months. And it was a wonderful, wonderful weekend, so I hope that you all were able to enjoy time with your families as well. But it was much-needed food for the soul, and grateful for the weekend I had. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, President Renner. I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Council comment. Ms. Angelou.
I have no comment.
Mrs. McGregor? This is going to be easy. Mrs. Bowers?
Yeah, just briefly, thank you. I wanted to mention that tomorrow evening there is a send-off show for the Gahanna Lincoln Orchestra. They are excited to have the public attend their spring finale concert and Orlando send-off. They had superior rated musicians who will be performing, and that will be tomorrow at 7:30 at the high school. I also had in my notes to recognize Peace Officer Memorial Day and Law Enforcement Appreciation Week. I stopped by Kroger after work today, and there were two boys, late elementary or early middle school, standing next to a cruiser that was parked in front of Kroger. And they were trying to lay a piece of candy on the window of the driver's side. And the officer came out while they were doing that, and he said, "Are you guys leaving me a gift?" And the boys looked at him and nodded and handed him the piece of candy, and he gave him a big fist bump. And I just thought that was a really great story to tell about how Gahanna has a community-oriented police department and how we are continuing to strive to ensure that we're funding a community-oriented police department as well. I'm glad that we have funded competitive salaries, a new police facility is underway, and that we have funded the mental health liaison. I also look forward to funding the requested records analyst position when it comes back to us for a vote. So thank you, both in word and in deed, to our law enforcement. Another happy Mother's Day wish, and we have had a very busy May here in the city, and I'm sure that's going to continue on into the summer months as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Padova?
Thank you. I'd like to give thanks to Chief Spence for setting up some tours of the Westerville Police Department for some of the council members who were interested last week. It was really informative to see the difference between what Gahanna has currently and what we need and what we will have in our new facility. So thank you to all the council members who went to that too, because I'm sure that wasn't an easy thing to set up between all of our schedules, chief's schedules, and also dealing with the Westerville PD. So I appreciate that. And thank you to all of our officers who are serving every day for our residents. And the only other thing is just to wish the GJPS students and teachers a happy summer.
Thank you. Mr. Snutzer?
Thank you, Mr. President. I suppose I'll be uncharacteristically long-winded here. I do want to, I guess, at least note that between now and our next regular meeting of council will, of course, be Memorial Day. And while I'm sure many of us will enjoy grilling out or enjoying a cold adult beverage, I hope that we don't lose sight of what that day actually is intended to recognize. I've had the fortune within the last couple of years to be introduced to a new, at least new to me, tradition, which is observance of National Poppy Day. And so I'll just read what www.legion.org has to say about this tradition. It says, after World War I, the poppy flourished in Europe. It says scientists attributed the growth to soils in France and Belgium becoming enriched with lime from the rubble left by the war. From the dirt and mud grew a beautiful red poppy. The red poppy came to symbolize the blood shed during battle following the publication of the wartime poem In Flanders Fields. The poem was written by Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, MD, while serving on the front lines. On September 27, 1920, the poppy became the official flower of the American Legion family to memorialize the soldiers who fought and died during the war. In 1924, the distribution of poppies became a national program of the American Legion. Led by the American Legion Auxiliary, each year members of the American Legion family distribute poppies with a request that the person receiving the flower make a donation to support the future of veterans, active duty military personnel, and their families with medical and financial needs. It says Poppy Day is celebrated in countries around the world, and the American Legion brought National Poppy Day to the United States by asking Congress to designate Friday before Memorial Day as National Poppy Day. And so on Friday, May 26th, I would just encourage everyone to wear red poppy to honor the fallen and support the living who've worn our nation's uniform. And again, for more information on that program, visit www.legion.org. That's it for me, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, thank you, Mr. Schnetzer, for sharing that. Over the past couple weeks, I had the opportunity of speaking with members of the YMCA board and attending their board meeting, discussed opportunities for partnerships with not only with the city, but with other community partners as well, and other nonprofits in the city. Great meeting. The Y is anticipating releasing their annual report for the entire Y, not just the Gahanna branch, in, I believe it was this week or next week. Want to echo the thanks to Chief Spence for setting up and arranging the tour. Amazing facility in Westerville. Really, the possibilities with bringing a facility into the 21st century, what that affords for our officers as in terms of training, safety, just a decent work environment for our officers to go to every day. Really highlights the need that we of being intentional and thoughtful, as I know Mr. Schultz is really day-to-day working on our facilities projects. So making sure that gives our officers and our Gahanna Division of Police what they need. Enjoyed attending Herb Day, got to be honest. I think I got there a little too late to take advantage of any the plants that I was instructed to go pick up. I failed at getting the 2 items that I was told to get, but I did find several others. So all in all, not a total loss, but thanks to Visit Gahanna and our Parks and Rec team members and all the volunteers and vendors who were there for making it possible. As was mentioned, I did have the opportunity to attend Newsies on Friday evening at the high school. My congratulations to my former drama instructor, Cindy Maciosi, on her retirement at the end of this year and on her send-off performance. And as she says, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, so recognizing the cast and crew as well, or the crast, as they say at the high school. Congratulations on a show well done. And really enjoyed the turnout on Saturday at not only the ribbon cutting for the murals that were at last displayed. And so thanks to the community for being there. And stepped over to the Urban Arts Fair. Awesome to see vendors and community supporting that as well. And then lastly, I will just echo my colleagues' comments recognizing National Peace Officers Memorial Day and just my everlasting gratitude for our officers. So thank you, Mr. President. That's it for me.
Thank you. I think all my colleagues actually said everything very well. I don't have anything new and additional to report. So looking for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Good night.